Lower that veil. Don't try to hide the kind of blood you carry in your veins, Sheriff Richard Cole said, raising his voice so every pew could hear him. Maya Williams stood at the front of the old white church, both hands wrapped around a small bouquet of magnolias. She did not lower her eyes. She only looked at the man who was about to become her father-in-law and said softly, "Sheriff, you may want to choose your next words carefully." No one moved. Ethan Cole stepped toward her. "Dad, stop." Richard did not look at him. His dress uniform was spotless. His badge sat bright on his chest. He kept his eyes on Maya, as if she were already standing trial. "I have been quiet long enough," Richard said. Maya stayed still. At 28, her white gown was unadorned, lacking the diamonds or expensive lace Richard associated with status. To him, her simplicity was proof enough of her unworthiness. Reverend Samuel Price stood behind the pulpit, one hand on his open Bible. He looked at Maya, then at Richard, but did not interrupt. Richard turned slightly toward the pews. The mayor sat near the front. Judge Whitaker held his program with both hands. District Attorney Reeves avoided Maya's eyes. 6 uniformed deputies stood along the wall. Maya's guests sat together on the right. Nora Bell gripped her purse. The others watched in silence. Working people, church people, people who had learned not to argue with Sheriff Cole in public. Richard raised his voice. "A man has a duty to protect his family. He has a duty to protect his name." Ethan moved between them. "This is my wedding. This is my church," Richard said. "My son, my family." Maya looked at Ethan. He was pale, but he did not step away. Richard pointed toward the right side of the church. "For months, this woman has met with people who have records in my county. People I have arrested. People who filed complaints against my office. People who would do anything to bring down this department if there was money in it." Several heads turned toward Nora Bell. Nora lifted her chin. Ethan said, "They're her friends. They came to our wedding." Richard snapped his eyes to him. "You don't know what she brought into this church." "She brought herself," Ethan said. Linda Cole sat in the front pew with a lace handkerchief folded in her lap. Her voice stayed gentle. "Ethan, sweetheart, your father is only asking for honesty." Maya turned to her. "Mrs. Cole, honesty has never been the problem in this room." Linda's smile tightened. Richard gave a short laugh. "There it is. That careful little courtroom voice. You think I don't know a setup when I see one?" Maya did not answer. "You think I haven't noticed the questions?" Richard said. "The courthouse visits? The parking lot meetings? The men who should be grateful they aren't still sitting in county cells?" He stepped closer. "You think I don't know what blackmail looks like when it puts on a white dress?" Ethan's face hardened. "That's enough." "No," Richard said. "Enough was when she decided to use my son as a key to this family. Enough was when she walked into my church with a guest list full of people who hate the law and expected me to smile for pictures." Maya spoke before Ethan could. "They don't hate the law, Sheriff. They hate what happens when men mistake themselves for it." Richard stopped. For 1 second, his mouth closed. His eyes shifted to the guests, then back to Maya. "You hear that?" he said. "She talks like she came here prepared. She came here to marry me," Ethan said. Richard faced him fully. "Then understand what it costs. If you say those vows, my protection ends. The Cole name will not open another door for you. The house, the trust, the position people give you in this county because you are my son. All of it goes away." The church stayed silent. Maya looked at Ethan. She did not ask him to choose. She did not tell him what to say. Ethan reached for her hand. Richard looked down at their joined fingers. "Let go of her." Ethan held on. Linda stood halfway. "Ethan, don't make this harder than it has to be." "It was already hard," Ethan said. "You just made it public." Richard's jaw tightened. "Son, this woman has been lying to you." "About what?" "About who she meets. About why she came here. About what she wants from this family." Maya said, "You followed me because you were afraid of what those people would tell me. I followed you because I know a threat when it gets close to my family." "No," Maya said. "You know accountability when it finally catches up to you." A few people shifted in their seats. Richard pointed at her. "Careful." Maya's voice stayed low. That was my advice to you. Reverend Price finally spoke. Sheriff Cole, this is a house of worship, not your interview room. Richard turned on him. Stay out of this, Reverend. I am in this, Reverend Price said. You brought it to the altar. Richard looked back at Maya. His face was red now, but his voice dropped. Last chance. Lower the veil. Tell this church the truth about who you are, and maybe I won't have you walked out before the first hymn is finished. Maya glanced toward the side entrance. Deputy Carl Jennings stood there, hands folded in front of him. He had not moved since Richard began speaking. Now his eyes met Maya's for half a second. Then he looked away. Outside, tires rolled over gravel near the front drive. Richard did not turn. Did you hear me? Maya looked back at him. I heard every word. Then answer. Ethan tightened his grip on her hand. She doesn't owe you anything. Richard ignored him. Who are you really? Maya Williams? Maya held the bouquet steady. The truth, she said. Sheriff, you have spent all morning walking toward it. Another vehicle stopped outside. A deputy near the door touched his earpiece, then looked at Jennings. Jennings gave no sign. Richard took Maya's silence as weakness. You think I won't do it? He said. You think I won't remove you from this church in front of everyone? Maya looked at the mayor, then the judge, then District Attorney Reeves. Each man looked away. She returned her eyes to Richard. No, Sheriff. I think you will do exactly what you always do when enough people are watching. Richard stepped closer. And what is that? Maya answered softly. Make evidence. Ethan looked at her, confused by the choice of words. Richard's expression hardened a brief flicker of recognition that passed before anyone else could catch it. Only Reverend Price and Deputy Jennings exchanged a glance. Richard straightened his uniform jacket and turned toward his men. We'll see about that. Outside, heavy doors slammed shut in a controlled sequence. No one else in the room recognized the sound of federal vehicles arriving. Not yet. 3 hours earlier, Maya Williams stood alone in the bridal room behind the church and fastened the last hook of her dress. The room smelled of hairspray, old wood, and coffee from the fellowship hall. Someone had left a paper cup on the windowsill. Someone else had forgotten a sewing kit on the chair. Maya noticed everything. She always did. Her dress was plain by Cole family standards. Linda had called it tasteful in the same voice people used for cheap. Maya had smiled when she heard it. She had chosen the dress herself. It fit well. It let her breathe. That mattered more than impressing people who had already decided not to be impressed. On the small table beside the mirror lay her bouquet. Magnolia blossoms, fresh cut, tied with cream ribbon. Her mother had loved magnolias. She used to say they looked soft until you tried to break them. Maya picked up the bouquet and looked in the mirror. At 28, she was a black woman about to marry into the most powerful family in Brighton County, and she knew exactly how the room outside would view her. She heard Linda Cole's voice in the hall before she saw her. No, sweetheart. Not there. That table is for family. The community people go in the back garden after the ceremony. Maya opened the door. A young server in a black dress stood frozen with a stack of place cards in her hand. She looked no older than 23. Her cheeks were flushed. Linda stood over her in pale blue silk. I'm sorry, Mrs. Cole, the server said, her hands shaking. I was told these were for the front reception table. You were told wrong, Linda said. We do not improvise here. Maya stepped into the hall. I'll handle it. Linda's gaze mapped Maya from her plain veil down to the unadorned hem of her dress. Oh, Maya, you should be resting. This isn't the time to strain yourself. I'm fine, Mrs. Cole. The server dropped a handful of place cards, the papers scattering across the polished floor. Linda watched without moving. Maya knelt, gathering the cards quickly, and caught the young woman's eye. It's just paper, Maya said under her breath. Don't let them make you run. The server caught her breath and nodded. Linda crossed her arms. That is an inappropriate tone to take in this house, Maya. Maya stood and handed the cards back. It is a useful thing to remember anywhere. Linda's smile tightened. You have a talent for sounding like you're giving testimony. Maybe I've spent time around people who needed someone to listen. Yes, Linda said. We've noticed. Maya did not answer. Linda stepped closer and lowered her voice. This family has been respected in Brighton County for generations. People know us. They trust us. They look to us when things get uncertain. A wedding like this is not just a private matter. I know. Do you? Linda asked. Because some of your guests are already drawing attention. Maya held the bouquet at her waist. They were invited. They are not exactly the kind of people Richard expected to see at his son's wedding. They are the kind of people I expected to see at mine. For a moment, Linda said nothing. Then she reached out and adjusted the edge of Maya's veil without asking. Maya, dear, a woman entering a family like ours should understand the weight of that family's name. Maya moved Linda's hand away gently. I'm not entering a name. I'm marrying Ethan. Linda's face stayed pleasant. Those are not separate things here. Footsteps came from the end of the hall. Ethan appeared, already dressed in his dark suit. His tie was slightly crooked. He looked first at Maya, then at his mother, then at the server still clutching the place cards. Everything all right? He asked. Linda answered before Maya could. Of course. Just wedding nerves. The server stepped back. I'll fix the table, sir. Ethan said. Take your time. Linda looked displeased. Ethan, your father is waiting for you. In a minute. Linda held his gaze, then kissed his cheek. Do not keep him waiting too long. You know how he gets. After she left, the hallway felt easier to breathe in. Ethan turned to Maya. What did she say? Nothing new. That usually means something bad. Maya looked toward the door Linda had used. She thinks your family is a courthouse and I'm showing up without proper documents. Ethan gave a tired laugh, but it faded quickly. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for things you didn't do. I invited you into this. You invited me to marry you. Your father invited the rest of the county to judge it. Ethan rubbed his jaw. He's been making calls since 7 this morning. Sheriff's office, the mayor, Judge Whitaker, even Senator Whitmore's assistant. Why? He said he wanted the day to go smoothly. Maya looked at him. Ethan nodded. I know. That's not what he means. He stepped closer. Are you sure you still want to marry into this family? Maya met his eyes. I'm marrying you, Ethan. I don't care about your father's badge, your family name, or the intimidation that comes with it. He looked down at her bouquet. Magnolias? My mother's favorite. She would have liked today? Maya paused. She would have liked you. She would have watched your father for 10 minutes and told me to keep my car keys in my hand. Ethan almost smiled. Then he took her free hand. I won't let him hurt you. Maya did not pull away, but she did not let the promise sit untouched. If you can feel Maya's pain in this moment, please like this video to stand with her and tell us in the comments where you are watching from, because maybe someone near you is watching this story too. Don't forget to subscribe for more emotional and inspiring stories. Ethan, your father has been hurting people longer than you've been trying to stop him. His face changed. You mean people like Nora Bell? I mean people who came to me because no one in this county would hear them without first checking who they were related to. Maya. She waited. He lowered his voice. Is there something I need to know before we walk in there? Maya looked past him toward the closed door. Her mind ran through the tactical reality. Reverend Price waiting inside, the federal wiretaps she had secured, and the black SUVs staged 2 miles down the road, waiting for Richard to overstep. There are things I can't say yet, she said. That sounds like my father is right to be suspicious. No. It means your father is suspicious for the wrong reason. Ethan let go of her hand and stepped back. Not far, but enough for her to feel it. What does that mean? It means I need you to trust what you know about me. I do. Then don't let him make you forget it in public. He swallowed. He's going to try. I know. A knock came at the side door. Reverend Samuel Price opened it without entering. Maya, may I have a word? Ethan looked between them. Should I go? Maya nodded. I'll see you at the altar. He hesitated. Whatever happens today, I choose you. Maya wanted to believe the words. She almost did. After Ethan left, Reverend Price stepped inside and closed the door. He is scared, the Reverend said. So am I. You do not look it. That's practice. He studied her face. The vehicles are nearby. Maya's hand tightened around the magnolias. Already? Close enough. She looked toward the hallway where Ethan had gone. Not yet. Maya, not yet, she repeated. If they come in before Richard shows himself, this town will call it federal overreach by dinner. And if you wait too long, then he'll do what he always does. Reverend Price's expression hardened. Use power and call it order. Maya nodded. He opened his Bible, then closed it again. There is a time to endure, and there is a time to let truth enter through the front door. I'm ready, Maya said. I just don't know if Ethan is. Then let him see enough to choose with open eyes. A church bell rang once. From outside came the sound of guests arriving, car doors closing, polite laughter, old friends greeting one another with sir and ma'am. Outside, the reality of Brighton County took shape as guests arrived to the sound of polite laughter, while the sheriff's uniformed deputies quietly took positions at every exit. Maya adjusted her veil herself. Reverend Price opened the door. At the end of the hall, Richard Cole was already waiting. Richard Cole did not move when Maya came down the hall. He stood beside the double doors leading into the sanctuary, one hand resting near the brim of his dress hat. His uniform looked freshly pressed. His boots were polished. His badge had been cleaned for the cameras, not for the church. Maya, he said. Sheriff. He looked at Reverend Price. I need a minute with my future daughter-in-law. Reverend Price did not step away. The ceremony starts soon. That wasn't what I asked. Maya touched the Reverend's sleeve. It's all right. Richard waited until Reverend Price was far enough down the hall, then turned back to her. You look calm. I am. That worries me. Maya held the bouquet with both hands. Most fathers would call that a blessing on a wedding day. I'm not most fathers. No, she said. You're not. His eyes narrowed. You always have an answer. I try to have the right one. Richard gave a small nod, as if confirming something he had already written down in his head. That's what bothers me. You don't act nervous. You don't ask questions. You don't try to win us over. Girls who marry into families like mine usually work harder. Maya looked at the sanctuary doors. Guests were already being seated inside. She heard low voices, a laugh cut short, the shuffle of programs. I'm not here to audition, she said. You are if you want my name. I don't. That got his attention. Maya continued. I want Ethan. Richard stepped closer. Ethan is my name. My blood. My son. You don't get to separate him from everything that made him. Maya did not answer right away. Richard leaned in. You think silence makes you strong? No. I think it makes careless men talk longer. His mouth tightened. Down the hall, Deputy Carl Jennings appeared near a side door. He looked once at Richard, once at Maya, then checked the clipboard in his hand. Richard noticed him. Jennings. Sheriff, keep an eye on the east entrance. Some of her guests are arriving. Jennings nodded. Yes, sir. Maya watched Jennings leave. His face gave nothing away. Richard caught her looking. You know him? I know his name. You know a lot of names. That happens when you listen to people. And what do they tell you? Richard asked. The ones you meet outside the courthouse? The ones with records? The ones who sit in your car and look over their shoulders before they speak? Maya looked back at him. Maybe they tell me things no one in your office wanted written down. His face changed for a second. Then he smiled. There it is. What? The threat under the manners. Maya took a slow breath. Sheriff, if you hear truth as a threat, that says more about you than about me. Richard turned toward the sanctuary doors and lowered his voice. For months, I've had people ask about you. Not officially. I'm not stupid. Quiet questions. Who you meet, where you go, what files you ask about. You know what comes back every time. Maya said nothing. Trouble, he said. You're always 2 steps from it. Families with lawsuits, men I've booked. Women crying about sons who made their own choices. You show up with a soft voice and a legal pad, and suddenly everybody has a story. Some people have stories because men like you gave them one. Richard's eyes hardened. You be careful in my church. Maya looked at his badge. Is it yours? His jaw moved once. Before he could answer, Linda came around the corner with a small white binder pressed to her chest. There you are, she said. Richard, the mayor is asking whether the senator's office confirmed. Richard did not take his eyes off Maya. Not yet. Linda glanced between them. Am I interrupting? No, Maya said. The sheriff was explaining ownership. Linda smiled. How clever. Richard finally turned to his wife. Where's Ethan? With the groomsmen. Trying not to look terrified. He should be nervous, Richard said. A man ought to know when he's standing near a cliff. Linda placed a hand on his arm. Not here. Yes, here. Maya studied them. They were not arguing. They were coordinating. Linda softened what Richard sharpened. Richard said aloud what Linda preferred to wrap in lace. A door opened behind them. Mayor Collins stepped into the hall. Gray suit, flag pin, smile ready. It faded when he saw their faces. Sheriff, he said. Big day. Richard shook his hand. Appreciate you coming, Mayor. Wouldn't miss it. The mayor looked at Maya. His smile returned, smaller. Miss Williams. Congratulations. Thank you, Mayor. He did not hold her eyes long. Judge Whitaker followed him. Then District Attorney Reeves. They greeted Richard first. They shook Ethan's father's hand with both hands. They nodded to Maya as an obligation. Richard watched her notice. You see, he said after they passed. This county runs on trust. Maya answered. No, it runs on habit. Linda's face went still. Richard laughed once, without warmth. You have no idea what you're stepping into. I know exactly what I'm stepping into. No, you don't. You think this is about race, or money, or whatever speech you've practiced in front of a mirror. This is about my son being used by a woman who keeps company with people looking for leverage. Maya held his stare. You think I'm blackmailing you? I think you're close to people who would. And that scares you. It irritates me. No, she said. It scares you. Linda cut in. Maya, dear, you are making this difficult. It was difficult before I arrived. Richard stepped back and looked toward the front windows near the vestibule. A black SUV moved slowly along the road outside. His expression shifted. He smiled. Linda saw it too. Is that Whitmore's security? Looks like it. The senator is really coming? If the timing works, Richard said. Then he looked at Maya. Good. Let people with real standing see what kind of woman almost joined this family. Maya followed his gaze to the SUV. It slowed, then continued past the church. She did not smile. She did not look surprised. Richard noticed. You expecting someone? Maya looked back at him. It's a wedding. People arrive. He studied her. For the first time that morning, suspicion turned into something sharper. Linda touched his arm again. Richard, the guests. He nodded once. Go make sure the reception table is corrected. Linda gave Maya one last look before walking away. Richard waited until she was gone. If you embarrass my family today, I will not handle it as a father. How will you handle it? As sheriff. Maya stepped closer, just enough that he had to look directly at her. That is the problem, she said. You never learned the difference. For a moment, he looked ready to answer. Then, the sanctuary doors opened. The organist began the first notes. Guests turned in their seats. Richard put on his public face. We'll finish this at the altar, he said. Maya adjusted her grip on the magnolias. I believe you will, she answered. People with records. The organist played the first notes, then stopped when Linda came through the side door and signaled with 2 fingers. Not yet. The guests were still arriving. Maya stayed near the front hall with Reverend Price, waiting for the cue. Richard walked into the sanctuary alone. He smiled as he moved down the aisle, shook hands, touched shoulders, accepted congratulations. He knew how to become warm when people were watching. Ethan stood near the side of the altar with his groomsmen. He looked past the pews until he found Maya. She gave him a small nod. He did not smile. He was watching his father. At the rear doors, the usher checked names from the guest list. Most of the Cole guests came in pairs. Older men in navy suits, women in pastel dresses, church hats, pearls, soft perfumes, careful smiles. They said, "Good morning. Bless your heart. Beautiful day for it," and looked around to see who else had come. Then Maya's guests began to arrive. Nora Bell came first. She wore a navy dress and carried a small black purse with both hands. Her shoes were polished but old. She paused at the threshold, as if the church itself might reject her. Maya saw her and walked back down the side aisle. "Nora," she said. Nora's face softened. "Baby, you look beautiful. Thank you for coming. I wouldn't miss it." The usher checked the list and hesitated when he saw the name. "Belle?" Maya answered before Nora had to. "She's with me." The usher looked toward Richard. Richard had stopped shaking hands. He stared at Nora from halfway down the aisle. 2 more guests entered behind her. Mr. Alvarez, a retired mechanic who had spent 9 months fighting a charge that disappeared only after a state review. Denise Carter, a night shift nurse whose brother had lost his job after an arrest that never led to trial. Then came Calvin Moore, a truck driver in his 40s who had once sat in county lockup for 3 days before anyone admitted they had the wrong man. They were dressed for church. They spoke softly. They held invitations. Richard saw records. He walked toward Ethan first. "Not Maya. Do you know who she brought into my church?" Ethan looked over his father's shoulder. "Her guests. Men I've booked. Families who filed complaints. People who show up at county meetings and call my deputies criminals. They were invited." Richard stepped close enough that only Ethan and the nearest groomsman could hear him. "No. They're a warning." Ethan's eyes moved to Maya. She was guiding Nora to a front side pew, not hiding her in the back. Richard saw that too. "She's making a statement," he said. "She's seating a guest. You still don't understand what she is doing. Then explain it without insulting her." Richard's face hardened. "Watch your tone." Ethan did not answer. Nora sat near the right aisle. Maya touched her shoulder, then turned to the others. "You can sit here," Maya said. "All of you." Denise Carter glanced toward the front pew, where Linda sat watching. "Maya, we don't want to cause trouble." "You didn't bring trouble," Maya said. "You brought yourselves." Calvin Moore leaned closer. "Sheriff's looking at us like we stole the hymnals." Nora whispered, "Let him look." Maya almost smiled. "That's the plan." From the side entrance, Deputy Carl Jennings watched. His hands rested in front of him. His face showed nothing. Richard had assigned him to monitor Maya's guests, but Jennings was counting something else. Which deputies stood where? Which exits were open? Which officials had arrived? Maya walked past him on her way back toward the front. Jennings did not turn his head. "Counselor," he said, under his breath. Maya kept walking. No one else heard. Richard did not miss the movement, though. His eyes narrowed. He crossed the rear of the sanctuary and stopped beside Jennings. "You know something I should know?" Jennings looked straight ahead. "About what, sir?" "About her." "No, sir." Richard studied him. "You hesitated." "I was watching the door." "Keep watching it." "Yes, sir." Richard moved on, but slowly. Linda approached him near the front row. "Richard." "Not now." "Yes, now. People are noticing." "They should notice." Linda lowered her voice. "If you start something before the vows, it looks personal." "It is personal. And political," she said. "Do not forget that." Richard looked toward the mayor. Mayor Collins was speaking with Judge Whitaker and District Attorney Reeves. All 3 had noticed Nora Belle. All 3 were pretending they had not. Linda continued. "If Maya wants to parade complaints in front of your friends, let her. Smile. Wait. Then handle it cleanly." Richard looked at her. "Is the reception table fixed?" "It will be." "That is not what I asked." Linda's eyes flicked toward the side hall. "It will be." Richard understood. Maya did too. She watched Linda's face, then Richard's. No words passed between them, but something had been agreed upon. Maya felt it as clearly as if Linda had handed him a written order. Reverend Price stepped beside Maya. "You see it?" "Yes." "Still not calling?" "Not yet." "Maya, if they stop at insults, the town will call it a family argument. If they move to evidence, it becomes something else." Reverend Price looked toward Nora and the others. "Those people have already paid enough." "I know." "Then do not let pride dress itself as strategy." Maya turned to him. "It isn't pride." "What is it?" She looked at Ethan. He was speaking to one of his groomsmen, but his eyes kept returning to Richard. "It's Ethan." Reverend Price understood and said no more. Near the rear doors, another guest entered. A man in a gray suit, carrying a camera bag, not part of the official wedding photographer's team. Richard saw him and smiled faintly. Maya noticed. "Local press?" she asked. Reverend Price followed her gaze. "Brighton County Ledger. Was he invited?" "Not by me." The reporter shook Richard's hand. Richard leaned close and said something that made the man nod. Nora Bell saw the exchange. Her mouth tightened. Maya walked back to Nora. "Are you all right?" Nora gave a short laugh. "I've sat in worse rooms." "I know. That doesn't make this right." "No, ma'am. It doesn't." Nora gripped Maya's hand. "Listen to me. If that man tries to shame you today, you do not make yourself small for our sake." Maya looked down at their hands. Nora continued. "My boy spent 27 years learning to look down when deputies walked by. I did not come here to watch you do the same in a wedding dress." Maya's voice dropped. "I won't," Richard called from the front. "Reverend, are we beginning or not?" The room quieted. Reverend Price closed his Bible with one hand and looked at Maya. "Ready?" Maya returned to the rear of the aisle. The bouquet felt heavier now. The organist placed her hands on the keys. Ethan stood at the altar. Richard took his place beside the front pew, but he did not sit. Linda watched from behind her pleasant smile. Jennings remained at the side entrance. Outside, tires moved slowly over gravel again. Richard glanced toward the sound and looked satisfied. Maya looked straight ahead. The music began. The black SUV. Maya walked down the aisle with her eyes on Ethan. The church watched her in pieces. Some looked at her dress. Some looked at her guests. Some looked at Richard Cole, waiting to see whether he would stop the ceremony before it began. Richard stayed on his feet near the front pew. He did not smile. He did not sit. Ethan's shoulders loosened when Maya reached him. "You okay?" he whispered. "No," she said. "But I'm here." He took that in. "So am I," Reverend Price began. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today in the presence of God, family, and community." Richard shifted at the word community. Maya heard it. Ethan did too. From the back of the church came a soft vibration. Someone's phone. Then another. A few guests looked down. Linda turned her head just enough to see who was being rude. Richard did not move. Reverend Price continued. "Marriage is not only a promise between two people. It is a public vow. A man and a woman stand before others and declare what they will protect, what they will honor, and what they will refuse to abandon." Ethan squeezed Maya's hand. Richard's jaw moved. Outside, another engine rolled slowly over the gravel road that circled the church. It did not stop near the main entrance. It passed the side lot, slowed near the old fellowship hall, then continued toward the road. Richard looked toward the stained glass window closest to the vestibule. He saw the dark shape through the colored glass. This time he smiled. Linda saw it too from the front pew. She leaned slightly toward him. "Was that them?" she whispered. "Whitmore's people," Richard said. "Already? He likes to arrive after everyone else knows he matters." Linda's smile returned. "Good." Ethan glanced at his father. "What?" Richard ignored him. Maya did not turn her head, but she saw Deputy Jennings at the side entrance. His eyes followed the sound of the vehicle. He touched nothing. He gave no signal, but the muscles in his face tightened once. Reverend Price paused for half a beat, then kept reading. Maya knew the vehicle was not Senator Whitmore's security. She knew because the senator had no reason to send anyone around the back of the church before entering. She also knew because Reverend Price had already told her the vehicles were nearby. Still, she did nothing. Not yet. Richard leaned toward Linda again. "If Whitmore's staff is already here, he may come before the reception. Then don't start anything inside," Linda said. "Let the ceremony finish. Let everyone move outside. More room. Better witnesses." Richard looked at her. She kept her eyes forward. "You said you wanted this clean." Maya heard only fragments, but she understood enough. Linda was not calming him. She was staging him. Reverend Price looked at Ethan. "Ethan Cole, do you come freely to this marriage?" Ethan answered. "I do." His voice was clear. Richard's mouth tightened. Reverend Price turned to Maya. "Maya Williams, do you come freely to this marriage?" Maya looked at Ethan. "I do." Richard gave a quiet laugh. It was not loud, but the front rows heard it. Reverend Price closed his Bible halfway. Sheriff Cole, is there something you wish to say before I continue? Linda whispered. Richard. Richard raised one hand, not to her, but to the Reverend. Actually, yes. Ethan turned. Dad, don't. Richard stepped out from beside the pew. The room changed at once. People straightened. Phones rose a little higher. The reporter from the Brighton County Ledger shifted near the rear aisle and adjusted his camera strap. Richard saw him. Good. Richard faced the congregation first. Not Maya. I have served this county for almost 30 years, he said. I have put men away who needed putting away. I have stood between decent families and people who would tear this town apart if given the chance. Maya stayed beside Ethan. Richard turned toward her. And now, my son asks me to welcome a woman who has spent months meeting with those same people in parking lots, outside courthouses, behind closed doors, people with records, people with grudges, people who know exactly what kind of pressure to apply when they want money or mercy. Nora Bell stood. Maya looked back. Nora, please. Nora did not sit. Sheriff, my son was cleared. Richard smiled without warmth. After your lawyer found a technicality. You mean the truth? A few guests murmured. Richard pointed at her. Sit down, Mrs. Bell. Reverend Price said. Sheriff, Richard snapped. I said sit down. Nora held his stare for one more second, then sat. Not because he had beaten her, because Maya had asked. Ethan stepped closer to his father. You are not doing this during our vows, Richard said. Your vows are exactly why I'm doing it. Maya spoke quietly. You wanted the senator's people to see this. Richard turned back to her. What did you say? You think the SUV outside belongs to Senator Whitmore? His eyes sharpened. And you know it doesn't? Linda looked at Maya now. So did Ethan. Maya held Richard's stare. I know you are very eager to have important people watching. Richard took one step toward her. Who are you expecting? A wedding has guests, Sheriff. That is not an answer. It is the answer you deserve right now. The reporter at the back lifted his camera. Richard noticed and raised his voice. This is what I mean. Evasion. Polished little answers. Always close to the line. Never standing on it. Maya looked at the camera, then at Richard. Careful. He laughed. You keep saying that, and you keep needing to hear it. Ethan put himself between them. Enough. We're leaving. No, Richard said. You're listening. I have listened my whole life. Then listen once more. If you marry her, you do not walk out of here as my son. Linda rose fully now. Richard, not inside. Richard kept going. No protection. No house. No place in this family. If she is what I think she is, you will lose everything for a woman who came here with a lie in one hand and a bouquet in the other. Ethan went still. Maya saw the wound land. Not because Ethan believed it, but because some part of him had always feared his father could take the world away with a sentence. Maya touched Ethan's arm. You don't have to answer him now. Richard seized on it. Hear that? She's giving you permission, like she owns you. Ethan turned slowly toward his father. She is giving me mercy, he said. You wouldn't recognize it. The church went silent again. Outside, the SUV passed once more. Slower this time. Then it moved on. Richard looked toward the window and smiled. He thought the right people were circling. Maya looked toward Jennings. Jennings did not move, but his hand slipped once into his jacket pocket, then out again empty. Message sent. Richard faced Reverend Price. Continue if you want, Reverend, but this wedding does not make it to the reception unless I know what she is hiding. Maya looked at the sanctuary doors. Beyond them were the garden, the parking lot, the reception tables, Linda's smile, Richard's trap, and whatever choice Ethan would have to make when the lie became physical evidence. She turned back to Richard. Then I suppose, she said, we should all be very careful what gets found, before God and everybody. Reverend Price looked at Maya first, then Ethan. This ceremony cannot continue like this, he said. Richard folded his arms. That is the first sensible thing said at this altar. I was not speaking for you, Sheriff. A few people looked up. Richard's eyes cut toward the pulpit. "Careful, Reverend." Reverend Price closed his Bible. "I have buried men with more humility than you are showing at your son's wedding." Linda stood quickly. "All right, everyone, please. We are going to take a short pause. There is tea and lemonade set up in the garden. Let us give the family a moment." Her voice was smooth. It almost worked. Older guests began to move because they had spent their lives obeying women who sounded calm in church. Programs folded. Purses snapped shut. Men cleared throats and looked for exits. Maya did not move. Ethan stayed beside her. Richard looked at the two of them. "You heard my wife." Ethan said, "I'm not leaving Maya alone with you. You still think this is romance. I think it is my wedding." Richard stepped closer. "Not anymore." Maya touched Ethan's wrist. "Let them go outside." He turned to her. "Why?" "Because he wants witnesses," she said. "Let him choose them." Richard heard that and smiled a little. "You talk like you know how this ends." "No," Maya said. "I know how men like you begin." Linda moved down the aisle, guiding guests toward the rear doors. "Please, everyone, just a few minutes. The family appreciates your patience." The mayor pinched Richard and spoke under his breath. "Sheriff, handle this quietly." Richard answered, without lowering his voice. "I intend to handle it correctly." Judge Whitaker avoided Maya as he walked by. District Attorney Reeves paused near Richard. "Need me to stay close?" Richard nodded. "Don't go far." Reeves glanced at Maya. "Is this going where I think it's going?" "That depends on what we find," Richard said. Maya watched the exchange. So did Ethan. "What you find?" Ethan asked. Richard ignored him. Nora Bell stopped near the front of the church. "Maya?" "I'm all right, Nora." Nora looked at Richard. "That man is not done." "I know. You want me nearby?" Maya gave her a small nod. "Yes, ma'am." Richard turned to Nora. "Mrs. Bell, I suggest you go outside with the others." Nora held his stare. "I suggest you remember, there are cameras now." Richard leaned toward her. "Cameras don't scare innocent men." "Then you ought to be shaking," Nora said. Ethan almost laughed, but nothing about his face was amused. Linda reappeared at the front aisle. "Richard, the reception area is full. The reporter is outside." "Good, not good," she whispered. "Useful. There is a difference." Richard looked toward Maya. "It will be both." Maya heard Linda's words. Useful, not good. Linda was choosing the stage. Reverend Price came down from the pulpit and stood beside Maya. "You may wait in my office," Richard said. "She stays where I can see her." Ethan stepped forward. "You do not give orders about my bride." Richard's mouth tightened. "If she has nothing to hide, she won't mind waiting." Maya looked at Ethan. "I don't mind." He stared at her. "Maya, I don't mind waiting," she repeated. "I mind lies. There is a difference." Richard pointed toward the side doors. "Garden." Now, the four of them moved through the side hall. Richard first, then Linda, then Ethan and Maya with Reverend Price close behind. Jennings stood near the exit. Richard stopped beside him. "Where are her guests?" "In the garden, sir." "Keep them together." Jennings nodded. "Yes, sir." Richard lowered his voice. "And keep an eye on Belle. She likes attention." Jennings looked straight ahead. "Understood." Maya passed him. Their eyes met briefly. Jennings said nothing this time. Outside, the garden was too bright for what was happening. White tables, folded napkins, sweet tea in glass dispensers, plates of ham biscuits, deviled eggs, and fried chicken bites. A 3-tier wedding cake waited under a linen canopy. Guests stood in clusters, pretending to sip drinks. No one was eating. The reporter from the Brighton County Ledger had already positioned himself near the far side of the garden. His camera was ready. A younger woman beside him held a phone and watched the live stream numbers climb. Richard saw them and straightened. Maya saw it too. Ethan leaned close. "He wants this." "Yes." "Why?" "Because he thinks public shame is proof." Richard walked to the small platform where the band had been setting up. He took the microphone from its stand. The band leader stepped away without argument. Linda moved to his side and spoke through her smile. "Richard, be precise." "I always am." "No," she said quietly. You are loud. Today you need precise. Maya stood near the first table with Ethan at her side. Nora Bell and the others gathered a few steps behind her. Reverend Price stood between Maya's guests and the deputies. Richard tapped the microphone once. The sound cracked through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "I apologize for the interruption, but a matter has come to my attention that I cannot ignore as a father or as sheriff." Maya kept her face still. Ethan's hand closed around hers. Richard continued, "For some time, I have had concerns about the associations and conduct of Miss Maya Williams." A woman near the punch bowl gasped. Someone whispered, "At the wedding?" Richard turned slightly toward the reporter. "This is not about race. It is not about class. It is about security, truth, and protecting this county from people who operate through pressure and deception." Nora said, "Here we go." Maya did not turn. "Let him talk." Richard looked toward her. "Miss Williams has been seen meeting with individuals connected to criminal complaints, lawsuits against this office, and possible attempts to obtain restricted information." Ethan raised his voice. "You followed her." Richard looked at him. "I protected you. You followed my fiancé. I investigated a threat." Maya spoke clearly. "Then say what you think I am." Richard paused. The whole garden waited. Maya stepped forward. "Say it plainly, Sheriff." Richard set his jaw. "I believe you may be connected to an organized blackmail effort against my office." The words spread fast through the guests. A few phones rose higher. Maya nodded once. "Good. Now everyone heard it." Linda's eyes narrowed. Richard frowned. "That is your response?" "My response is that accusations sound different when witnesses hear the whole sentence." Richard gripped the microphone. "You wanted witnesses. You brought half of them." "No," Maya said. "You did." A deputy hurried from the side parking area and whispered in Richard's ear. Richard's expression changed from anger to satisfaction. Linda saw it and relaxed. Ethan saw it and went cold. "What is it?" Richard lowered the microphone but did not turn it off. "A file is missing from my office." Maya did not blink. Richard faced the garden again. "A confidential sheriff's office file has been removed without authorization." The mayor muttered. "Richard, don't do this here." Richard raised the microphone. "And I have reason to believe it may be on this property." Ethan looked at Maya. "You knew." Maya kept her eyes on Richard. "I knew he would stop using words eventually." Richard pointed toward the parking lot. "Miss Williams," he said, "where are your car keys?" Linda's charity smile. Maya did not reach for her purse. Richard kept the microphone near his mouth. "I asked where your car keys are." "They're in my bag," Maya said. "Then get them." Ethan stepped in front of her. "No." Richard looked at him. "Move. You're not searching her car. A confidential sheriff's office file is missing. And somehow you already know where to look?" A few guests shifted. The question hit too cleanly. Linda stepped forward with both hands raised. "Ethan, please. This is already painful enough. If Maya has nothing to hide, a simple look will clear everything up." Maya turned to her. "Is that what you planned?" Linda's smile held. "I planned a wedding." "No," Maya said. "You planned a scene." Richard lowered the microphone. "Careful." Maya looked at it in his hand. "You're the one still holding the microphone." The reporter at the far side of the garden adjusted his camera. The young woman beside him whispered, "We're live." Richard heard it. He liked it. "Fine," he said into the microphone. "For the sake of transparency, I will say this plainly. A restricted file was removed from a secure area connected to my office. Miss Williams has spent months meeting with people tied to complaints against this department. She has been seen near county facilities. She has refused to give clear answers about her associations. I am asking for her cooperation." Nora Bell spoke from behind Maya. "No, you're accusing her." Richard pointed toward Nora. "Mrs. Bell, you have already said enough today." Nora did not step back. "I haven't said near enough." Maya raised one hand slightly. Nora stopped, but her eyes stayed on Richard. Linda moved closer to Maya, lowering her voice just enough to sound private while still letting the nearest guests hear. "Maya, don't make this worse for yourself. People are willing to be forgiving when a young woman admits she got in over her head." Maya studied her. Is that what you're hoping I'll say? I'm hoping you'll tell the truth. The truth is you have been waiting for something to be found. Linda's eyes flicked once toward the parking lot. Maya caught it. So did Ethan. He turned slowly. Mom? Linda faced him with the practiced hurt of a woman who had used softness as cover for years. Ethan, do not let her turn you against your family. You just looked at her car. I looked where everyone is looking. No, Ethan said. You looked like you already knew. Richard cut in. That is enough. It isn't, Ethan said. Not anymore. Linda's face tightened, but she recovered fast. She touched Ethan's sleeve. Sweetheart, your father is trying to protect you. You may not see it today, but one day you will thank him. Ethan pulled his arm back. Don't. That one word hurt her more than an argument. Richard looked toward Deputy Jennings. Jennings stepped forward from the side of the garden. Sheriff, have Deputy Marsh secure Miss Williams's vehicle. Jennings did not move at once. Richard stared at him. Did you hear me? Yes, sir. Then do it. Jennings turned toward a younger deputy near the parking path. Marsh, stand by the vehicle. Do not open it. Richard's head snapped toward him. That is not what I said. Jennings kept his voice flat. Until we establish consent or a warrant, sir, we can secure it. We can't search it. The garden went quiet. Richard walked toward him. Are you giving me a law lesson at my son's wedding? No, sir. I'm keeping the evidence clean. Maya watched Richard absorb that. She saw the anger, but also the calculation. Cameras, officials, witnesses. Richard could not explode yet. Linda stepped in before he did. Carl is right, Richard. We want this done properly. Her words sounded reasonable. Her eyes said something else. Maya knew Linda was buying time. Linda had left the sanctuary before the file was announced. She had gone toward the reception area. She had come back, too composed. Now she wanted the vehicle secured until the planted file could be discovered in the most useful way. Maya looked toward the side hall, leading back into the church. Linda followed her gaze. For 1 second, the mask slipped. Maya saw fear. Not much. Just enough. Richard returned to the platform. Miss Williams, will you voluntarily provide your keys? Maya asked. If I say no, then I will consider that refusal as part of the circumstances. In front of the mayor, the judge, the district attorney, and a live stream. Richard smiled thinly. Exactly. Maya nodded. Then everyone should hear my answer. No. A murmur broke across the garden. Ethan looked at her. Maya, she turned to him. Let him do what he came to do. Richard spoke into the microphone. The refusal has been noted. Reverend Price stepped forward. Also note that she asked for legal process. Richard ignored him. District Attorney Reeves moved closer to Judge Whitaker. This is messy, the judge whispered. Messy is generous. Mayor Collins took out his phone, looked at the screen, then put it away when he saw Jennings watching him. Linda left the platform and walked toward the church doors. She moved calmly, stopping twice to reassure guests. Everything will be fine, she told one older woman. Richard knows what he's doing. Maya watched her go. Ethan saw Maya watching. What is it? She's going back inside. For what? Maya did not answer. Inside the church, Linda moved through the side corridor, away from the noise of the garden. Her smile disappeared as soon as no one could see her. She entered the small preparation room used for extra flowers and storage. A man in a gray suit waited near the table. He was not a guest. He worked for Richard when Richard needed something done without a county record. Is it placed? Linda asked. In the trunk. You're sure? Yes, ma'am. The backup? He pointed to a white envelope on the table. There, in case the first one gets challenged. Linda looked at it and frowned. That should not be out. I was going to take it with me. Then do it. A sound came from the hall. Linda turned. No one appeared. She looked back at the man. Richard is calling more people. Once the senator's office confirms, he wants this opened where everyone can see. The man picked up the envelope. Understood. Linda lowered her voice. No mistakes. Outside, the garden noise rose again. The man slipped the envelope under his jacket and left through the opposite door. Linda waited 5 seconds, then followed. Neither of them saw Ethan standing inside the shadow of the hall near the coat room. He had come looking for his mother after seeing Maya watch her leave. He had heard enough. His face had gone white. When Linda disappeared toward the garden, Ethan stepped into the preparation room. His eyes moved over the table, the flower boxes, the extra programs, the roll of ribbon. The envelope was gone. But the man had missed one thing. A folded instruction sheet lay half under a stack of place cards. Ethan pulled it free. 3 lines were handwritten across the top. Vehicle, Maya Williams. Placement, trunk, left side, undergarment bag. Discovery, after public refusal. Ethan read it twice. Then he heard Richard's voice outside through the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to resolve this matter today. Ethan folded the paper and put it inside his jacket. His hands were shaking. For the first time in his life, he was not afraid his father might be wrong. He was afraid his father knew exactly what he was doing. The envelope Ethan found. Ethan stood in the preparation room with the folded instruction sheet in his hand. Outside, his father's voice came through the speakers. We have nothing to fear from the truth. If Miss Williams is innocent, she should welcome the chance to prove it. Ethan looked at the paper again. Vehicle, Maya Williams. Placement, trunk, left side, undergarment bag. Discovery, after public refusal. The words were too plain to misunderstand. He folded the paper once more and slipped it into the inside pocket of his jacket. Then he checked the hallway. Empty. He moved toward the garden, but stopped when he heard footsteps near the side entrance. Deputy Carl Jennings came around the corner. Jennings saw his face. Ethan. Ethan stepped closer. Did you know? Jennings did not ask what he meant. That was answer enough. Ethan's voice dropped. Did you know my father was planting evidence on Maya? Jennings looked toward the garden doors. Lower your voice. Answer me. Jennings paused. I knew he was planning something. I did not know the exact placement until a few minutes ago. That makes it better? No. Ethan stared at him. Then why are you standing here in uniform? Because if I walked away, I couldn't stop anything. You call this stopping it? Jennings took the hit without flinching. Not yet. Ethan's hand moved toward his jacket pocket. I found the instructions. Jennings's eyes changed. On you? Yes. Do not give that to your father. I wasn't planning to. Do not wave it around too early either. Ethan let out a hard breath. You sound like Maya. Jennings said nothing. Ethan looked at him more closely. You're working with her. Jennings did not answer fast enough. My God, Ethan said. You are. Jennings looked toward the garden again. Listen to me. There are federal agents close. Your father is making this worse by the minute. If you expose the paper now without the right people present, he may call it fabricated, take it from you, or turn it into another accusation. He's about to search her car. He can secure it. He cannot lawfully search it without consent, a warrant, or a trick he thinks will pass for cause. That trick is already in the trunk. I know. Then do something. Jennings leaned closer. I am. Ethan wanted to hit the wall. He did not. He had heard enough lies dressed as procedure his whole life. Still, Jennings did not look like a man buying time for Richard. He looked like a man waiting for a door to open. What does Maya know? Ethan asked. Enough. Does she know about the planted file? She expected a setup. She did not know your mother would leave a paper trail in the church. Ethan closed his eyes for 1 second. My mother, he said. Jennings's voice softened. Ethan, I am not asking you to protect your father. I am asking you to protect the evidence. Ethan looked at him. I'm going back out there. Then keep the paper safe. Wait until Richard commits himself in front of witnesses. He already has. He can still claim misunderstanding. Let him say the accusation clearly. Let him demand the search. Let him put his badge behind the lie. Ethan shook his head. That is a hell of a thing to ask. Yes, Jennings said. It is. From outside, Richard's voice sharpened. Deputy Marsh, remain by the vehicle. No one touches it. Until I say so. Ethan turned. Jennings said, Ethan. He stopped. When the moment comes, speak to what you saw. Not what you think. What you saw. Ethan nodded once and walked out. The garden turned toward him as he emerged from the side hall. He felt the weight of every stare before he even reached Maya. She saw his face and knew something had changed. "What happened?" she asked. He stepped close enough that Richard could not hear. "I found something." Her eyes held his. "Where?" "Preparation room." "It's bad. Do you have it?" "Yes." Richard's voice cut across the garden. "Ethan, step away from her." Ethan turned toward him. Richard stood on the platform with the microphone in one hand. Linda was beside him again, composed, though her eyes kept returning to Ethan's jacket. That told him she knew. Ethan walked toward the platform. "Son," Richard said, "this is not the time." "It is exactly the time." Linda moved to intercept him. "Ethan, sweetheart, come here. Let your father handle this." Ethan stopped in front of her. "Did you tell someone to put a file in Maya's trunk?" Linda's face froze. The microphone picked up the silence. Guests shifted. The reporter lifted his camera higher. Nora Bell leaned forward. Linda recovered. "What a terrible thing to say. Answer me." "Not in front of everyone. You were willing to accuse Maya in front of everyone." Richard came down from the platform. "Enough." Ethan looked at him. "Did you do it?" Richard's face hardened. "You are confused." "No. I have been confused for years. This is the first clear thing I've seen all day." Maya stayed near the front table. She did not rush to him. She let him choose his own ground. Richard lowered his voice. "Son, whatever you think you found, you need to hand it to me." Ethan laughed once. It sounded strange, even to him. "That's exactly what Deputy Jennings told me not to do." Richard looked toward Jennings. Jennings stood near the garden path. Expression blank. Linda whispered, "Richard." Ethan reached into his jacket. Richard stepped forward. "Do not." Ethan pulled out the folded instruction sheet and held it up. The garden went still. "I found this in the preparation room," Ethan said. "It says Maya's car. Trunk. Left side. Undergarment bag. Discovery after public refusal." Linda's hand went to her throat. Richard pointed at the paper. "That could be anything. It is in your man's handwriting. You don't know that. I know enough to ask why my bride's car was listed before you ever claimed a file was missing." A murmur moved across the garden. District Attorney Reeves stepped back from the platform. Judge Whitaker stopped looking away. Mayor Collins stared at Richard with his phone halfway out of his pocket. Richard raised the microphone again. "My son is emotional. He does not understand the seriousness of what is happening." Ethan turned toward the guests. "I understand this. My father planned to accuse Maya, then find what he had already arranged to place in her car." Linda's voice sharpened. "You ungrateful boy." Ethan looked at her. The words hurt. He did not let them move him. "You helped," he said. Linda's eyes filled, but there were no tears. "I tried to save you. From the woman I love? From being used?" Ethan shook his head. "No. You tried to save the Cole name." Richard climbed back onto the platform and spoke into the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly how manipulation works. She has turned my son against his own blood." Maya finally stepped forward. "No, Sheriff. You did that yourself." Richard pointed at her. "You stay quiet." Ethan moved between them. "Don't talk to her like that." Richard's voice dropped. "You choose her now, and there is no coming back." Ethan held up the paper again. "I already chose when I picked this up and did not hand it to you." For the first time that day, Richard looked uncertain. Then his pride took over. "Fine," he said. "If you all want this public, we will make it public." He turned to the reporter. "Keep filming." Then he looked to Deputy Marsh by the parking lot. "Secure the vehicle. Nobody opens it until I give the order." Maya looked toward the road beyond the church. Another black SUV turned through the gate. Then another. Jennings saw them too. This time, he did not hide his relief. "Call the cameras." Richard saw the SUVs at the gate and smiled before anyone else could read the markings. "There," he said. "Right on time." Linda followed his gaze. Her face relaxed for half a second. "Whitmore?" Richard lifted the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, I asked for witnesses today because I do not believe in hiding the truth. Senator Whitmore's people appear to be arriving, and I welcome their presence." Maya looked at Jennings. Jennings looked toward the gate. then toward the platform. He did not correct Richard. Ethan stood beside Maya with the folded instruction sheet in his hand. "Dad, those aren't the senator's cars." Richard ignored him. The first SUV slowed near the entrance. A second pulled behind it. A third stopped near the outer fence, angled toward the parking lot. They did not hurry. They did not flash sirens. They simply took positions. Richard mistook precision for security. "Deputy Marsh," he called. "Stay with the Williams vehicle. Nobody touches that trunk until we have proper witnesses," Maya said. "You mean until you have cameras?" Richard turned to her. "I already have cameras." The reporter from the Brighton County Ledger stepped closer, one hand on his camera. "Sheriff, are you making an official statement?" Richard's eyes brightened. "Yes. Keep recording." The younger woman beside the reporter whispered, "We're still live." "Good," Richard said. "The public deserves to see how these things work." Ethan looked at him. "You called them here to humiliate her." "I called them because this county has a right to know when someone tries to compromise my office." "You planted the file." Richard raised his voice. "That is an accusation made by a son, under emotional pressure." Ethan held up the paper. "This is not emotion." Linda stepped between them, careful not to touch the paper. "Ethan, please. You are embarrassing yourself." "No," Ethan said. "For once I'm not." Several guests murmured. An older man near the cake table took off his hat. A woman from Linda's charity board slowly lowered her glass of sweet tea. Richard saw the room slipping. He tightened his grip on the microphone. "Let me be clear," he said. "Maya Williams has spent months meeting with individuals tied to criminal complaints, lawsuits, and attempts to damage this office. Today, a confidential file connected to my department has gone missing. When asked to cooperate, she refused. Now my son claims to have found some paper that means nothing without context." Maya spoke from the foot of the platform. "Then, give it context." Richard stared at her. She continued, "Say when the file went missing. Say who reported it. Say who last had access. Say why you knew to look in my trunk before any search began." Richard did not answer. District Attorney Reeves cleared his throat. "Sheriff, those are fair questions." Richard turned on him. "You want to do this now?" Reeves looked at the live stream camera, then at the mayor. "You made it now." Mayor Collins stepped forward, palms open. "Richard, slow this down. Let's get inside. Make calls. Verify the report." "No." Richard pointed toward Maya. "That is what people like her count on. Delay, confusion, sympathy. Then the evidence disappears." Maya's voice stayed calm. "The evidence is exactly where you had it placed." Linda's face tightened. "You have a gift for sounding innocent." Maya looked at her. "And you have a gift for sounding charitable." That landed. One of Linda's friends looked away. Richard took out his phone. "Fine. We will make sure no one claims I acted alone." He dialed in front of everyone. "Tom? Richard Cole. I need you at First Grace Church now." "Yes, at the wedding. I have a possible breach involving a confidential sheriff's file, and a woman I believe may be connected to a blackmail operation. I want state eyes on this before anyone starts spinning it." He paused, listening. "No, I'm not asking for permission. I'm giving you the chance to be present when we expose it." He ended the call and dialed again. "Whitmore's office, please. Tell the senator this is urgent." "Sheriff Cole." "Yes, he knows me. I need him or his chief of staff here immediately. We may have uncovered an organized attempt to compromise a law enforcement office." Ethan stared at him. "You're inviting more people?" Richard lowered the phone. "I am inviting accountability." "No," Ethan said. "You're inviting an audience." Richard smiled. "Same thing. If you are telling the truth." Maya turned slightly toward Jennings. "How long?" Richard caught it. "How long for what?" Maya faced him. "For you to finish burying yourself." A deputy near the gate touched his earpiece. He looked at the SUVs, then back at Jennings. His face changed. Jennings walked toward the platform. Richard noticed. "What is it?" Jennings stopped at the foot of the steps. "Sir, you may want to pause." Richard laughed. "You too?" "I'm advising caution." "You work for me, Carl." "Yes, sir." "Then advise less and obey more." Jennings looked at him for a long moment. That has been the problem for a long time. The garden went quiet. Richard's face darkened. Say that again. Jennings did not. Linda stepped beside Richard. Carl. Not here. Jennings looked at her. Especially here, ma'am. The first SUV door opened at the gate. A man in a dark suit stepped out, followed by two others. They did not approach yet. They waited while more vehicles settled into place. Richard still refused to see it. Marsh, he shouted. Who is at the gate? Deputy Marsh looked from the SUV to the sheriff. Federal plates, sir. The words moved through the garden faster than any rumor had all day. Federal plates. Linda's hand dropped from Richard's arm. The reporter whispered, Are you getting this? The young woman said, All of it. Richard lowered the microphone. That's not possible. Maya said, It is. He turned to her. For the first time, anger was not the only thing in his face. What did you do? Maya answered. I waited. The second SUV opened. Then, the third. A man Richard did not know walked through the gate with a folder in his left hand. He did not look at the cake, the flowers, the guests, or the cameras. His eyes went first to Maya, then to Ethan, then to Richard. Jennings straightened. Maya lifted her chin. Richard raised the microphone again, but his voice had changed. This is still my jurisdiction. No one answered him. The man in the dark suit kept walking. Behind him, federal agents moved toward every exit. No one leaves. The man in the dark suit stopped 10 feet from the platform. Richard kept the microphone in his hand. The man did not look at it. Sheriff Richard Cole? He asked. Richard squared his shoulders. Who are you? Marcus Hale, Deputy Attorney General, United States Department of Justice. The garden went still. Linda's fingers tightened around the edge of the platform rail. Richard gave a short laugh. This is a private wedding. Hale opened the folder. Not anymore. Richard looked toward Mayor Collins. Mayor, tell these people where they are. The mayor did not move. Hale turned his head slightly. Mayor Collins, stay where you are. The mayor froze. Hale looked to the left. Judge Whitaker, District Attorney Reeves, you are both to remain on the property until instructed otherwise. Judge Whitaker's mouth opened. No sound came out. Reeves stepped back. Are we being detained? You are material witnesses to an active federal investigation, Hale said. You are not under arrest. You are not free to leave. That sentence did more than any shout could have done. Guests stopped shifting. A woman near the cake table lowered her phone. The reporter kept filming. Richard raised the microphone. This is an outrageous overreach. Hale looked at the microphone for the first time. Turn it off. Richard smiled. The public has a right to hear this. The public is already hearing it. Turn it off before you create another problem for yourself. Richard did not move. Maya spoke from below the platform. Sheriff, he looked at her. You wanted witnesses, she said. Let them hear him. Richard's face tightened. He lowered the microphone but did not turn it off. Hale gave one nod to the agents behind him. They spread out with quiet speed. 2 moved to the gate. 2 went toward the parking lot. 1 stood near the side entrance to the church. Another walked toward the garden path that led to the fellowship hall. No one was pushed. No one was touched. The exits simply stopped being exits. Deputy Marsh stepped away from Maya's car. An agent stopped near him. Do not touch the vehicle. Marsh raised both hands. I wasn't. Richard saw it. That car is part of my investigation. Hale closed the folder halfway. The Williams vehicle is now part of ours. On what grounds? Evidence tampering, obstruction, civil rights violations, retaliatory targeting of a federal legal officer. The last words hit the crowd late. Federal legal officer. Ethan turned to Maya. She did not look away. Richard heard it too. His face changed, but only for a second. Linda stepped forward. There must be some mistake. Maya is a community legal worker. She helps people with paperwork. Hale looked at her. Mrs. Cole, do not make statements you cannot support. Linda blinked. Richard pointed at Maya. She lied about who she was. Maya answered before Hale could. I came here to marry your son. You came here under false pretenses. No. You made assumptions and called them facts. Richard stepped down from the platform. You expect me to believe this woman is federal? Hale said. You don't need to believe it. You need to comply. Ethan moved closer to Maya. Maya, is it true? She turned to him. Yes. His face tightened. Not in anger, but in hurt. Why didn't you tell me? Because the investigation was active. Because your father was part of it. Because I needed to know what you would choose when you thought I had nothing behind me. Richard seized it. You hear that? She used you. Ethan did not look at him. Maya's voice lowered. I did not use you. I protected a case. I also loved you. Both can be true, and I am sorry one of them hurt you. Ethan looked down at the folded instruction sheet in his hand. Then he looked at his father. You planted evidence on her. Richard snapped. I protected you from a liar. No, Ethan said. You framed my wife before she was my wife. Linda's voice cut in. Ethan, enough. He turned to her. You helped. She stepped back as if he had raised his hand. He had not. Hale glanced at Ethan. Mr. Cole, preserve the document you are holding. Ethan nodded. Richard saw the exchange. That paper means nothing. It means enough for now, Hale said. The reporter called out, Mr. Hale, can you confirm this is a DOJ raid? Hale did not turn. You will receive a statement later, Richard barked. This is not a raid. Hale looked at him. It is the execution of an emergency federal search order. He lifted the document for Richard to see. Richard stared at it, then at the agents near the exits. You cannot search my property without my counsel present. You may call counsel, Hale said. You may not delay execution of the order. Linda whispered. Richard, call Owen. Richard pulled out his phone. An agent stepped closer. Sheriff, do not delete or transmit records. Richard glared at him. I'm calling my lawyer. You may do that on speaker, Hale said. Richard's hand stopped. The mayor took one step backward. Hale looked at him. Mayor Collins. The mayor stopped. I was just, stay where you are. Nora Bell watched from behind Maya. Her voice was low, but clear. Funny how quiet people get when the law finally looks both ways. Maya heard her but did not smile. Jennings stepped out from the side of the garden and approached Hale. Richard turned hard. Carl, where the hell have you been? Jennings stopped between Richard and the platform. Doing what I should have done years ago, he said. Linda's face drained. Richard stared at him. Careful. Jennings looked at Maya. Then he looked at Hale. Deputy Attorney General Hale, he said. I have something for you. Richard took one step forward. Carl. Jennings reached into his jacket. Two agents shifted their hands. Ready, but calm. Jennings pulled out a small key on a metal tag. Richard stopped moving. Everyone saw it. Jennings held the key out to Hale. This opens the private evidence safe behind the sheriff's office wall, Jennings said. The one not listed in county inventory. Richard's mouth tightened. Hale took the key. Jennings kept his eyes on Richard. I've been cooperating with Counselor Williams for 4 months. The garden broke into whispers. Richard looked at Maya. For the first time, he did not look angry. He looked exposed. The key to the safe. Richard stared at the key in Marcus Hale's hand. For a few seconds, he did not speak. The whole garden seemed to wait for him to become the man they knew. Loud, certain, untouchable. But his mouth stayed closed. Linda recovered first. Carl, she said, soft and sharp. Think very carefully about what you're doing. Jennings looked at her. I have. Richard's voice came out low. You stole from my office. No, Jennings said. I preserved evidence from a safe that was never supposed to exist. That safe contains sensitive county material. Hale slipped the key into an evidence bag and sealed it. Then it should have been listed, logged, and accessible under lawful procedure. Richard pointed at Jennings. He is lying to save himself. Jennings did not deny it. I am saving myself. I should have done it sooner. But the records are real. The safe is real, and the planted file is real. Ethan turned toward his father. You kept a secret evidence safe? Richard ignored him. Maya stepped forward. Sheriff, you called people criminals because you were afraid of what their stories would prove. He snapped his eyes to her. Do not lecture me. I'm not lecturing you. I'm identifying the pattern. Hale looked toward the agents near the church doors. Secure the preparation room, the parking lot, and the Williams vehicle. Photograph before touching anything. Bag the instruction sheet Mr. Cole found. Preserve all live stream footage. The reporter lifted his head. You need my footage? An agent turned to him. Yes, sir. Do not stop recording. Do not delete anything. The reporter nodded fast. Understood. Richard tried to step off the platform. 2 agents moved into his path. Nobody touched him. He stopped anyway. This is still my son's wedding, Richard said. Ethan answered. You ended that when you tried to frame my bride. Linda turned on him. Do you hear yourself? Your father built this family. He gave you everything. Ethan's voice stayed quiet. Then maybe I should have asked where it came from. Linda looked as if he had slapped the name Cole out of her mouth. Maya touched Ethan's sleeve. Not to stop him, only to steady him. Hale opened another document. Sheriff Cole, you are ordered to surrender your department-issued phone, radio, and any keys or access cards related to county records. 17. 1910-7. Clicks as ever. 19-7. Richard laughed once. You think I'm handing over my phone at my son's wedding? Hale did not blink. Yes. Richard looked around for help. Mayor Collins looked at the grass. Judge Whitaker wiped his forehead. District Attorney Reeves had already moved 3 steps away from him. Reeves, Richard said. Say something. Reeves swallowed. Sheriff, you need counsel. I need loyalty. No, Maya said. You need a warrant-proof lie. You ran out. Linda's eyes flashed. You've enjoyed this from the beginning, haven't you? Maya turned to her. No. I wanted a wedding. You wanted revenge. I wanted your family to show me who they were when they thought I had no power. Linda's smile broke at the edge. And you think this makes you noble? No, Maya said. It makes you recorded. That silenced her. One of the agents returned from the side hall with a clear plastic evidence sleeve. Inside was the handwritten instruction sheet Ethan had found. Hale looked at Ethan. Mr. Cole, is this the document you discovered? Ethan stepped forward. Yes. Where? In the preparation room by the side hall, under a stack of place cards. Did anyone give it to you? No. I found it after I heard my mother talking to a man about placing something in Maya's trunk, Linda said quickly. He misunderstood. Ethan looked at her. I heard you say, make sure it's in her trunk before Richard calls the cameras over. The garden reacted. A few people gasped. One of Linda's charity friends lowered her phone and backed away. Linda saw it. Marjorie. The woman did not answer. Richard pointed at Ethan. You are repeating private family conversation in front of federal agents. Ethan said, you made this public before I did. Hale nodded to another agent. Identify the man Mrs. Cole spoke with. Linda's lips parted. There was no man. An agent at the parking path spoke into his radio. Then to Hale. We have a gray suit male at the rear exit. He attempted to leave through the service lane. He is being held as a witness. Linda closed her eyes. Richard looked at her. Who? She did not answer. Hale looked back to Richard. Sheriff, your phone. Richard's hand tightened around it. Jennings spoke. Richard. The sheriff turned on him. You don't get to use my first name. I used it for 22 years, while I watched people walk into your office scared and walk out broken. Hand over the phone. You coward? Yes, Jennings said. For a long time, the answer landed harder than denial would have. Richard looked at Maya again. You got to him. Maya shook her head. Your own records got to him. Hale stepped closer. Final instruction, Sheriff. Surrender the device. Richard held the phone out. An agent took it and placed it into a signal-blocking evidence bag. The simple act seemed to shrink him. Linda reached for his arm, but he pulled away. Across the garden, Deputy Marsh stood by Maya's car, while agents photographed the trunk, the ground around it, and the path from the side hall. One agent asked Maya for the keys. Hale turned to her. Counselor Williams, do you consent to DOJ opening your vehicle for evidence documentation? Maya answered clearly. Yes, for federal documentation only, Richard muttered. Convenient. Maya looked at him. Lawful. The agent opened the trunk. No one moved closer. Phone zoomed in from a distance. Inside, beneath a garment bag on the left side, lay a thick county envelope stamped confidential. Linda looked away. Ethan shut his eyes for half a second. Hale watched as the agent photographed the envelope in place. Then he turned to Richard. "The planted file is not the crime Miss Williams committed," Hale said. "It is the crime committed against her." Richard said nothing. For the first time all day, he had no sentence ready. Nora Bell spoke from behind Maya. "That's what it feels like, Sheriff. When the room finally sees what was done." Richard did not look at her. Hale raised his voice just enough for the garden to hear. "All county officials present will remain available for statements. No one leaves until cleared by federal personnel." The mayor sat down. Judge Whitaker did the same. District Attorney Reeves took out his phone, looked at an agent, and slowly placed it on the table. Linda stood alone near the platform, still dressed like the hostess of the year, with no one beside her. Maya looked at the magnolias in her hand. The ribbon had twisted during the chaos. Ethan reached over and straightened it with his thumb. "I'm sorry," he said. "Not here," she answered. He nodded. They both looked back at Richard. The sheriff had wanted everyone trapped in the garden until he found the truth. Now no one could leave because the truth had found him. The silent raid. Marcus Hale did not raise his voice again. He did not have to. The agents had already changed the meaning of the garden. 10 minutes earlier it had been a wedding reception with sweet tea, white napkins, and a cake no one had cut. Now each table was a holding point. Each exit had a federal agent standing near it. Each official understood that leaving would be remembered. Hale turned to the guests. "Everyone will remain calm. No one is being asked to speak without counsel. No one will be searched without cause. But no one leaves this property until federal personnel clear the scene." An older man near the punch table said, "My wife needs to sit." "She may sit," Hale said. "She may have water. She may not leave." The man nodded and helped his wife into a chair. Maya watched that small exchange. Hale gave people dignity, even while taking control. That was the difference Richard never understood. Richard stood near the platform with his hands at his sides. Without his phone, without the microphone, he looked less like a sheriff and more like an angry man at a ruined party. He noticed people looking at him that way. "This is political," Richard said. "All of it." Hale looked over a document with an agent. "You may make that statement to counsel. I'm making it now. You are making many things worse now." Linda stepped toward Hale. "Mr. Hale, surely there is a way to move this somewhere private. These are wedding guests, elderly people, church members. This is humiliating." Hale looked at her. "Mrs. Cole, your husband chose the venue. Your husband called the media. Your husband invited state officials to witness a public accusation against Miss Williams." Linda's face hardened. "That was before you arrived." "Yes," Hale said. "That is often how consequences work." Nora Bell made a soft sound behind Maya. Not quite a laugh. Not quite relief. Agents moved through the property with measured purpose. 2 photographed the trunk of Maya's car. 1 bagged the planted county envelope. Another took statements from Deputy Marsh and the usher who had watched the parking area. A woman in a navy blazer entered the church with a camera and gloves, then disappeared into the side hall where Ethan had found the instruction sheet. Mayor Collins sat at a table near the lemonade dispenser. He kept his hands visible. Judge Whitaker whispered to District Attorney Reeves, "Do we need lawyers?" Reeves stared at the agents near the church. "We needed lawyers years ago." Richard heard him. "You watch yourself." Reeves looked back. "That's what I'm doing." The words landed quietly, but everyone nearby heard them. Hale gestured to Jennings. "Deputy Jennings, walk me through the safe." Jennings nodded. "There's a false panel in the sheriff's private office. Behind the framed commendation from the State Association. Key opens the inner lock. Combination is digital, but Richard keeps a written backup in the left drawer under the tray." Richard turned on him. "You miserable traitor." Jennings did not flinch. "I was loyal to the wrong thing. You were nothing before I gave you that badge." Jennings looked at him. That was the lie that kept most of us quiet. Hale gave an instruction to another agent. "Notify the search team at the sheriff's office. They have the key. Confirm location and request immediate entry." The agent stepped away and spoke into a radio. Richard's face tightened. You have people at my office? Hale looked at him. Yes. You waited until my son's wedding. No, Maya said. You waited until your son's wedding. Richard turned to her. She continued. You could have let us marry. You could have treated my guests like people. You could have ignored your fear for one afternoon. You chose the stage. Linda pointed at Maya. You let this happen. I let you be yourselves, Maya said. Linda looked around for support. Her charity friends had gathered near the far table. Marjorie Bellamy, who had chaired 3 fundraisers with Linda, would not meet her eyes. 2 others whispered and stopped when Linda looked over. Linda walked toward them. Marjorie, she said, tell them this is not what it looks like. Marjorie held her clutch with both hands. Linda, I don't know what it is anymore. You know me. I know your invitations. I know your luncheons. I know your speeches. Marjorie swallowed. I don't know that safe. Linda's mouth opened. No one stepped toward her. The young woman live streaming turned her phone slightly. Linda noticed and froze. Hale called to one of his agents. Secure Mrs. Cole's event binder. Linda clutched it to her chest. This is wedding planning. Then it will be returned after review. You cannot take my private papers. Hale's expression did not change. Agent Brooks, a female agent, stepped forward. Mrs. Cole, place the binder on the table. Linda looked at Richard. Richard did not move. For the first time all day, he could not protect her with a word. Linda slowly set the binder down. Agent Brooks opened it. The first pages were seating charts, floral invoices, cake notes. Then she reached a back pocket and removed a sealed bank envelope. Linda's hand twitched. Hale saw it. Bag it, Linda said. That is nothing, Maya answered. Then let the records prove it. Linda looked at her with pure hate. Ethan stepped between them. Don't. Linda stared at her son. You stand there holding her hand while strangers take your mother's things. Ethan looked at the binder, then at the planted file in the evidence bag near the car. I'm standing where I should have stood sooner. A radio crackled. The agent near Hale listened, then turned. Sir, search team confirms entry at the sheriff's office. They found the false panel. Richard's face changed. Hale asked, safe? Present. Locked. They're using the key now. Jennings lowered his eyes. Maya held the magnolias still. No one spoke while the radio stayed open. Then the agent listened again. Safe is open, he said. Multiple unlogged files, cash bundles, recording devices, county evidence tags, names matching pending civil complaints. The garden went silent. Richard looked at Jennings as if he could still command the truth back into the wall. Jennings looked tired. I told you it was real. Hale turned to Richard. Sheriff Cole, you will not discuss this matter with any witness present. You will not contact your office. You will not instruct anyone to move, delete, alter, or explain records. Richard said nothing. Hale stepped closer. Do you understand? Richard's voice was low. I understand you've ruined my family, Ethan answered before anyone else could. No. You made us watch you do it. Richard looked at him. Ethan did not look away. At the edge of the garden, the wedding cake stood untouched. The white icing had begun to soften in the afternoon heat. Maya noticed Linda staring at it. The perfect wedding. The perfect family. The perfect public face. All of it still standing. And none of it true. Counselor Williams. Marcus Hale turned from the radio and faced the garden. Everyone heard that, he said. So let us be clear about what happens next. The search at the sheriff's office is active. Evidence is being secured. Witnesses here will remain available. No one is to coordinate stories. Richard's eyes went to the mayor. Mayor Collins looked down at the table. Hale turned to Judge Whitaker and District Attorney Reeves. Judge, Mr. Reeves, your phones will be collected temporarily for preservation of relevant communications. You may contact counsel through monitored procedure. Judge Whitaker stood halfway. I am a sitting judge. Hale looked at him. Then you understand the order. The judge sat back down. Reeves placed his phone on the table without being asked twice. Richard scoffed. Look at you all. Folding because a man from Washington waves paper. Hale stepped closer. No one folded, Sheriff. They just stopped leaning on you. That cut deeper than volume. Maya stood near Ethan, bouquet in one hand, her other hand held in his. He had not let go since the safe was confirmed. He looked at her again. Counselor Williams. There was no accusation in it. Only shock. Maya nodded. Yes. How long? The investigation started before we met. My role became active last year. And you couldn't tell me. I wanted to. More than once. But you didn't. No. Ethan looked toward his father, then back at her. Because of him. Because of the case, Maya said. And because I needed to know whether you could see him clearly without me handing you proof first. That hurt him. She saw it. I'm sorry, she said. That part was unfair to you. Richard jumped in. Listen to her. She admits it. She tested you. She walked into our family under orders. Maya turned. No, Sheriff. I walked into this family because I loved your son. You turned that into evidence because that is what you do to people. Richard stepped forward. An agent moved slightly. Richard stopped. Hale addressed the garden. For the record, Miss Williams did not initiate today's federal action. The Department of Justice had an existing investigation into the Brighton County Sheriff's Office. Today's events escalated because Sheriff Cole attempted to create a false criminal basis against a federal civil rights attorney and a private citizen. Linda said, Private citizen? She has been lying about being federal all day. Hale looked at her. Mrs. Cole, federal employees are allowed to get married. A few people looked down to hide their reaction. Linda flushed. Maya did not smile. Hale continued. Miss Williams was here as a bride. Your family created the rest. Nora Bell lifted her voice from behind Maya. Say that part again. Hale looked at her. Ma'am? Nora stood. I said say that part again, for the ones who never hear it the first time. Hale faced the guests. Miss Williams was here as a bride. Nora sat slowly. Thank you. Richard pointed toward her. This is exactly the kind of theater she brought. No, Ethan said. You brought theater. You called the cameras. The reporter raised a hand. Sheriff Cole personally requested coverage. I can confirm that. Richard turned on him. You keep your mouth shut. Hale looked at the reporter. Do not shut your mouth. Preserve your footage. The young woman live streaming whispered, Still live. Richard heard it. His face changed. For the first time, he seemed to understand the size of the room had changed. It was no longer the garden, or the church, or Brighton County. It was whatever number watched through that phone. It was whatever came next. Jennings stepped closer to Hale. Sir, there's more you should know. Richard barked. Carl. Jennings ignored him. The safe will have 3 folders marked with church donation codes. Those correspond to Mrs. Cole's charity accounts. They are not church funds. They route through 2 shell vendors used for campaign events. Linda's voice turned thin. You have no idea what you're talking about. Jennings looked at her. I signed off on the security invoices. They were fake. Marjorie Bellamy, Linda's closest charity friend, stared at her. Linda turned toward her. Marjorie, don't be ridiculous. Were our donations in those accounts? Linda's lips pressed together. Marjorie stepped back. That one step broke something. The other women followed it with their eyes before their feet moved. Linda saw it. Her world had always depended on small signals. Who sat beside whom? Who accepted a lunch invitation? Who touched an arm in public? Now those signals turned against her. Hale nodded to Agent Brooks. Add Mrs. Cole's binder, the bank envelope, and any related event documents to the warrant return. Flag financial crimes for referral. Linda grabbed the edge of a chair. Financial crimes? This is a wedding, Maya said. So was the false file in my trunk. Linda turned on her. You think you have won? No, Maya said. I think people are finally keeping records. Ethan looked at Hale. What happens to her car? It will be processed and released when cleared. The planted file will remain evidence. And my statement? We will take it formally. Ethan nodded. I'll give it. Richard stared at him. You would testify? Against your own father? Ethan faced him. I would testify about what I saw. That is the same thing. No, Ethan said. You made it the same thing. Hale spoke before Richard could answer. Sheriff Cole, you are being instructed again. not to intimidate a witness. Richard's nostrils flared. My son is not your witness. Maya's voice was quiet. He is his own man. Ethan looked at her. Something passed between them then. Not forgiveness yet. Not peace. But a line drawn on the right side of the truth. Hale turned to Jennings. Deputy, you will remain with Agent Brooks after this. Full statement. Yes, sir, Richard said. You think they will protect you? Jennings answered. No. I think I'll tell the truth and live with what it costs. That answer left Richard with nothing to strike. A radio crackled again. Agent Brooks listened, then spoke to Hale. Search team reports ledgers in the safe. Names match several complainants, including Bell, Alvarez, Carter, Moore. There are payment records attached to witness statements. Nora Bell stood again. Slower this time. My son's name? Agent Brooks looked at Hale. Hale nodded. Yes, Mom. Bell is listed. Nora's hand went to her mouth. She did not cry. She just breathed through the first proof anyone in authority had ever said aloud. Maya stepped toward her. Nora shook her head once. No, baby. Stay where you are. Let them all hear it. Maya stopped. Hale faced Richard. This is no longer only about Miss Williams. Richard said nothing. Hale continued. It is about every person whose file was handled like property instead of due process. Maya looked at the guests who had come for her. Mr. Alvarez stood with his arms crossed. Denise Carter wiped her eyes. Calvin Moore stared at the ground, jaw tight. Richard had called them people with records. Now the records were speaking back. Hale closed his folder. Counselor Williams, we will need your formal statement after the scene is stable. Maya nodded. Of course. Ethan squeezed her hand once. Richard saw it and spoke with the last weapon he had. Ethan, if you stand with her now, you are no son of mine. Ethan did not look away this time. I would rather lose your name than keep it by lying about my wife. Linda made a small sound. Richard's face went flat. Maya held Ethan's hand tighter. Around them, the agents kept working. The cameras kept recording. The guests kept watching. And for the first time in Brighton County, the Cole name did not decide what the truth was allowed to be. The Charity Queen falls. Richard did not answer Ethan. He looked past him instead, toward the guests, the deputies, the church ladies, the officials, the cameras. For most of his life, those people had known when to look away. Now they kept looking. Linda noticed it too. She stepped off the platform and walked toward the women from her charity board. She moved carefully, as if posture alone could hold her life together. Marjorie, she said. This has become very confused. Marjorie Bellamy stood beside two other women in pale dresses. She had hosted luncheons with Linda, chaired scholarship dinners with Linda, smiled in newspaper photos with Linda. Now she held her purse against her ribs and kept her distance. Linda, Marjorie said, did our donations go through those vendors? Linda gave a small laugh. Do you hear yourself? This is a federal ambush at my son's wedding. And you're asking me about vendors? I'm asking where the money went. It went where it was supposed to go. Then why are there charity codes in your husband's safe? Linda's face tightened. You don't understand how public service works. No, Marjorie said. I understand checks. I wrote several. The women beside her stepped back. Linda saw the movement. It was small, but it cut. These were not strangers. These were the women who had sat in her dining room and praised her silver, her causes, her discipline, her ability to bring the right people together. Now none of them wanted to be too close to her on camera. Agent Brooks came toward Linda with a sealed evidence bag in one hand. Mrs. Cole, we need to confirm whether this binder is yours. Linda looked at the clear bag. Inside was her white wedding binder. The front page still read Ethan and Maya in gold ink. That is my event binder. And the bank envelope found inside? I don't know what you mean. Agent Brooks held up a second bag. This envelope contained deposit slips connected to two nonprofit accounts. Under your signature authority. Linda's mouth moved, then stopped. Marjorie whispered, My God. Linda turned on her. Do not perform shock for these people. Marjorie's eyes hardened. These people? You mean federal agents? Or the people you claimed to help? Linda had no answer ready. Marcus Hale stepped closer. Mrs. Cole, these documents will be reviewed. If the funds were used properly, the records will show that. Maya stood a few feet away with Ethan. She did not speak. Linda looked at her anyway. You are enjoying this? Maya shook her head. No. You ruined my son's wedding. You helped turn it into a crime scene. Linda's voice sharpened. You think one badge from Washington makes you better than me? Maya looked at Richard's badge, then back at Linda. No. I think badges reveal people. So do charities. That struck harder than an insult. Richard stepped toward them. An agent shifted to block him. Don't speak to my wife like that, Richard said. Ethan answered before Maya could. You don't get to defend her from the truth. Richard looked at his son. You are making the greatest mistake of your life. No, Ethan said. I made it every time I stayed quiet to keep peace in your house. Linda's eyes filled at that, but still no tears fell. After everything we gave you, Ethan's voice stayed steady. You gave me fear and called it protection. A murmur moved through the crowd. The reporter was still filming. The young woman with the live stream had stopped whispering updates. Her eyes were fixed on Linda now. Hale looked toward the reporter. You will provide a copy of the full recording to federal investigators. The reporter nodded. Yes, sir, Richard said. You should be ashamed. Filming a family matter. The reporter lowered the camera just enough to look at him. Sheriff, you called me. Someone near the back let out a nervous breath that almost became a laugh. Richard heard it. His face changed. For the first time, the crowd did not fear his reaction enough to hide its own. A black sedan pulled near the gate, behind the federal SUVs. A man in a gray suit got out, looked at the agents, then at the cameras, and stopped. The official Richard had called from the state office had arrived too late to help and early enough to be seen. Richard pointed toward him. Tom, tell them who I am. The man did not come closer. Richard, I think you need counsel. I need you to witness what they're doing. I am witnessing it. The answer carried across the garden. Linda turned away from him. Her world was shrinking one familiar face at a time. Agent Brooks spoke again. Mrs. Cole, please remain available. We will need your statement regarding the event binder, the bank envelope, and the gray suit male detained near the service lane. I will not be questioned like a criminal, Hale said. Then you should not have helped create a false accusation against one. Linda looked at Maya. You were never family. Maya's answer was quiet. You made sure of that. Ethan took one step forward. She is my family. Richard's head snapped toward him. Not if you walk out with her. Ethan held up the folded instruction sheet. It was already marked and photographed, now sealed in evidence. But he still remembered how it felt in his hand. You gave me a choice, Dad. You just didn't expect me to choose the truth. Richard's eyes went cold. You will regret this when she is done using you. Maya finally turned fully toward him. Sheriff, you keep saying people use each other because that is the only kind of loyalty you understand. Jennings stood beside Hale. He looked tired, older than he had an hour before. Richard saw him and shifted his anger. And you stood in my office for 2 decades and smiled in my face. Jennings nodded. Yes, you took my paycheck. Yes, you brought my coffee, rode in my car, stood beside me in court. Yes, and all the while you were feeding her. Jennings looked at Maya, then back at Richard. No, for most of those years I was feeding your silence. 4 months ago, I stopped. Richard stepped forward again. This time Hale's voice stopped him. Sheriff Cole. Richard froze. Hale continued. You have been instructed not to intimidate witnesses. That includes your son, Deputy Jennings, Mrs. Bell, and anyone connected to the recovered records. Richard's hands curled, then opened. He had nowhere to put his anger. The radio at Hale's shoulder crackled again. Search team update, an agent said. Financial ledgers photographed. Safe contents secured. Preliminary review indicates non-profit transfers connected to sheriff's campaign vendors and private security payments. Names include Linda Cole as authorizing officer. The words did what no accusation could do. They made Linda real to the crowd. Not generous Linda. Not church Linda. Not charity Linda. Linda with accounts. Linda with signatures. Linda with records. Marjorie stepped farther back. Linda saw her. "Marjorie, please." Marjorie shook her head. "Don't call me." That was the moment Linda's face finally broke. Not because of the DOJ. Not because of Maya. Because the women whose approval had fed her life were already protecting themselves. Maya watched, not with joy, but with recognition. Linda had mistaken social power for love. Now the room was teaching her the difference. Hale turned to the gathered guests. "Those not identified as material witnesses will be cleared in groups. You will provide contact information before leaving. If you recorded today's events, preserve the footage." No one argued. Richard looked around the garden. "You're all just going to stand there?" No one answered. He looked at the mayor. The mayor looked away. He looked at Reeves. Reeves folded his arms. He looked at the deputies. Deputy Marsh stared at the ground. Richard's voice dropped. "Cowards." Nora Bell stepped forward. "No, Sheriff. Just late." Maya looked at her. Nora continued. "Late to seeing you. Late to saying no. Late to believing us. But late is still better than never." Richard had no answer for her either. Ethan turned to Maya. "We should go." Hale heard him. "Counselor Williams, after your preliminary statement, you may leave the scene if you choose. We will arrange a secure location for formal follow-up." Maya looked at the church, the tables, the cake, the magnolias in her hand. "This was supposed to be a wedding," Ethan said. Maya looked at him. "It still told us who would stand with us." He swallowed. "And who wouldn't?" She nodded. Behind them, Linda sat down alone at the nearest table. No one joined her. The tea glasses sweated in the heat. Her pearls sat perfectly at her throat. Her hands shook in her lap. Richard remained standing. The cameras still recorded. He had called them to watch Maya fall. They stayed long enough to watch his wife lose her crown. What the magnolias remembered. Maya gave her preliminary statement in Reverend Price's office. Ethan sat beside her. He did not speak unless Hale asked him something directly. When he did, he gave clean answers. What he heard, what he found, where he found it, what his father said, what his mother said. He did not decorate the truth. He did not soften it either. Marcus Hale wrote little. Mostly he listened. When Maya finished, he closed his folder. "We will need a formal statement later." "I know," Maya said. "You also know you did not have to let it go that far." Maya looked at the bouquet resting across her lap. The edges of the magnolia petals had begun to brown. If we had moved too early, Richard would have called it politics. He would have said Washington came for him because he was a good sheriff who asked the wrong questions. He may still say that. "Yes," Maya said. "But now he has to say it beside a planted file, a secret safe, a live stream, and his own son's statement." Ethan looked down. Maya touched his hand. "I'm sorry." He shook his head. "Not for that. For not telling you." He was quiet for a moment. "I hate that you had to test me. I hated it too. But I understand why you did. That hurt more than anger would have. Maya would have known what to do with anger. Understanding, asked for more honesty. I loved you, she said. I still do. But I needed to know if you loved me when I was just Maya. Ethan looked at her. You were never just Maya. Outside the office, voices moved through the hallway. Federal agents giving instructions. Guests leaving in small groups. Someone crying. Someone calling a lawyer. Wedding chairs scraping against the floor. A wedding being packed away as evidence. Reverend Price opened the door. They are clearing the front steps. Hale stood. Counselor, I'll have an agent walk you both out. No, Maya said. We can walk. Hale studied her, then nodded. Stay reachable. I will. As they stepped into the hallway, Nora Bell waited near the side door. Her purse was still clutched in both hands. They said my son's name was in that safe, Nora said. Maya nodded. I heard. Does that mean they'll open his case again? It means they have a reason to look. A real one. Nora pressed her lips together. Her eyes shone, but she did not cry. 27 years old, and still flinches when a patrol car slows down. Maya took her hand. We will not let them bury it again. Nora held on tight. No, baby. This time we bury them in paperwork. Maya almost smiled. Ethan stepped forward. Mrs. Bell, I'm sorry. Nora looked at him for a long second. For what you did. For what I didn't see. That's a longer apology, she said. Yes, ma'am. She nodded once. Then make it a longer life. Outside, the garden looked stripped. The cake still stood under the canopy, untouched. Agents moved evidence bags from table to table. The reporter was giving his information to an agent. Mayor Collins sat alone, waiting. Judge Whitaker had stopped pretending to be calm. District Attorney Reeves spoke quietly into a phone on speaker while an agent listened. Linda sat at a table with her hands folded. No charity friends beside her. No pearls of sympathy. No one asking if she needed water. Richard stood near the platform, speaking to a lawyer through a monitored phone. He saw Maya and stopped mid-sentence. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Richard said, "This is not over." Maya looked at him. "No, it isn't." Ethan stepped beside her. Richard's eyes moved to his son. "You'll come back when she ruins you." Ethan shook his head. "I already lived in a house where love came with threats. I'm not going back." Linda looked up then. "Ethan." He turned to her. Her voice was smaller now. "You would leave your mother sitting here?" He looked at the evidence bags on the table beside her binder. "I'm leaving the lie," he said. "You chose where to sit." Linda's face hardened again. It was easier for her than shame. Maya and Ethan walked out through the front of the church. No organ played. No rice was thrown. No one cheered. Reverend Price stood on the steps with them. "What now?" Maya looked at Ethan. He answered first. "Not that garden." "No," she said. "Not that garden." 3 weeks later, they married in a smaller church on the east side of Brighton County. The pews were worn. The flowers came from backyards. Nora Bell brought pound cake. Mr. Alvarez fixed the old church sign before the ceremony without being asked. Denise Carter sang one hymn with a voice that made half the room look down. There was no mayor, no judge, no sheriff's uniform, no society photographer. Reverend Price asked Ethan if he came freely. This time, no one interrupted. "I do," Ethan said. He asked Maya. "I do," she said. Afterward, in the fellowship hall, they ate fried chicken, collard greens, potato salad, cornbread, peach cobbler, and the pound cake Nora insisted was not too sweet even though it absolutely was. Older women hugged Maya too long. Men shook Ethan's hand and looked him in the eye to see what kind of man he intended to become. He let them look. 6 months later, the Brighton County Sheriff's Office had a new acting sheriff and a new policy posted in the front lobby. No person shall be searched, detained, questioned, accused, or treated as suspicious because of race, appearance, income, clothing, association, or assumption. People stopped to read it. Some laughed bitterly. Some took pictures. Some just stood there. Nora Bell's son had a hearing date. Calvin Moore's complaint was reopened. Denise Carter's brother received a letter saying his case would be reviewed. Mr. Alvarez kept the letter from DOJ folded in his shirt pocket for a week. Jennings gave testimony. He did not call himself brave. When a reporter asked if he felt like a hero, he said, "No, ma'am. I feel late." That answer traveled farther than he expected. Richard Cole lost the office first, then the friends, then the rooms that used to stand when he entered. His name still opened doors, but only to lawyers, subpoenas, and questions he could not bully away. Linda lost more quietly. Her charity boards removed her name. The church asked for her resignation from every committee. The women who once praised her table settings now crossed aisles at the grocery store. Her accounts were frozen pending review. Her invitations stopped coming. No one announced it. They simply let her feel the empty space. Maya went back to work. She still drove the same car. The trunk had been cleaned, photographed, released, and returned to being a trunk. She still carried a legal pad. She still met people outside courthouses, in church basements, in diner booths over coffee gone cold. But now, when people saw her walk into a county building, they stopped whispering and started making room. Ethan worked with a local group helping people navigate wrongful arrest claims. He was not good at it at first. He talked too much. He apologized too often. Then one day Nora Bell told him, "Baby, guilt is not service. Bring the forms." After that, he improved. One evening, Maya found the wedding magnolias pressed inside Reverend Price's old Bible. The petals had dried flat, cream turned brown at the edges, but the shape remained. She touched them lightly. Ethan stood in the doorway. "You kept them?" Reverend did. "Why?" Maya closed the Bible. "Maybe to remember what survived." He came to stand beside her. "Do you ever wish we had just walked away that morning?" he asked. Maya thought about Richard at the altar, Linda at the table, Jennings with the key, Nora hearing her son's name spoken from a federal report, Ethan holding the instruction sheet and choosing not to hand it to his father. "No," she said. "I wish it had cost less, but I don't wish it stayed hidden." That night, Richard sat alone in a smaller house beyond town limits and watched the live stream again. He paused it at the moment he stood on the platform, microphone in hand, certain he was about to expose a liar. He stared at Maya on the screen. White dress, steady hands, magnolias. He had called cameras to witness her fall. Instead, they had recorded the truth standing still, while cruelty did all the talking. And the woman he said did not belong in his family became the reason Brighton County finally learned the difference between order and justice. The lesson of Maya Williams' story is simple, but not easy to forget. Never measure a person by the way they look, the people they stand beside, or the assumptions others make about them. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is carrying the heaviest truth, and sometimes justice does not arrive with anger or noise. It arrives calmly, with patience, with records, with witnesses, and with the courage of one person who refuses to become small just because powerful people demand it. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of this story. Your time, your attention, and your heart mean more than you know. If this story moved you, please share your thoughts with us. Did the storytelling feel clear? Was there a moment that stayed with you? Your feedback helps us make each story stronger, deeper, and more meaningful. And if you have a powerful story of your own, a story about injustice, courage, family, betrayal, loyalty, or truth finally coming to light, we would be honored if you shared it with our channel. Your story might be the one someone else needs to hear. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.